So we're going to be doing these studies this week and next week. But this week we're doing the first two block-ins, and then next week we will be doing our last two block-ins. And I'm going to be demoing that with this flower. We're going to be doing two flowers, this peony, which I think is gorgeous, and then also our pink rose. So the purpose of doing studies before we do an actual painting is because we can work out all of our issues ahead of time. I like to do a lot of studies because that allows me to work out my paint colors, my mixtures, my drawing, and it ends up with a little prototype for my final painting. So at the very end, when you have your the fourth pass of this color study, that will be your prototype for your final painting. And so what we will do is we're going to use these larger canvases. And so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to make 4 squares, and we're going to do little underpaintings. Now, I will tell you, I don't typically do an underpainting on my studies. However, for our class, I want us to do a little underpainting for each one. And the reason why, again, this is a learning tool for you all to understand. In our final painting, we do an underpainting. So I like for us to go ahead and start this as a habit. So we're going to, for each of our little studies, or each of the block-ins of our studies, we're going to be doing a little underpainting. So I'm going to take a smaller brush, and I'm going to make 4 squares, and I'm going to leave enough room because when we're doing these studies, when we do our mixtures of our paint, we're going to put a little swatch of them above each stage of our study. So again, this is a learning tool that will remind us when we're doing our final painting what our colors look like at the time. And that will help us remember how we mixed them. So I'm going to kind of divide this out. I'm going to do just a little square. And the other thing that we're doing, I'm going to use my gam saw. So we're going to make this very, very thin for underpainting. And I'll go ahead and do that with my yellow ochre. So we're going to be using yellow ochre for our underpainting. And I've just taken some gam saw with my brush and gotten it very, very thin. This is the time that we use our gam saw thinly like this to thin out our yellow ochre to make our underpainting drawing. So I'm just going to make kind of little squares, just kind of this. I want to have enough room to put our little paint swatches on. So I'm leaving that for up here. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to make 4 of these. And even though we're going to start out this week with just doing our first 2, I'll go ahead and get the other 2 on here. And I want to have space in between so that I can put my color swatches up above these. Okay. And then the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to make, again, we're going to be doing an underpainting on all of these. And so when we do our final paintings, we want to get, for underpainting, we want to, again, thin out our yellow ochre and just brush it on our canvas. And the reason why we do an underpainting is because, number one, it gets rid of this white of our canvas. When we're painting and we're laying down color, color is affected by what's around it. So you've got to make good color decisions. And in order to do that, you really need to get rid of the white. I'm kind of dripping there, but that's okay. I can wipe that off if I want. And I'm going to go ahead, even though we're not going to be doing these two this week, while I've got my fan brush loaded up, I'm going to go ahead and stain these little squares. So I've got that done. And then I can take a paper towel and kind of wipe this down a bit. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to draw out my flower, and I'll go ahead and do it on each one of these. So I'm just going to loosely draw it out. I'm just kind of looking at the shape here, this rounded shape. And I'm just going to look at the very exterior part. So I'll start here, here. When we draw early on, it's all going to change, and really this is just for getting the placement of our subject on our canvas, knowing that this will change during our process. And I'll go ahead and do it up here also. And then we have this kind of center part here that almost looks like a rectangle. So I'm going to pretty much just draw it like a rectangle. And I'm just going to kind of brush this in because this is very dark value in the middle. And the same way over here. And I can take the yellow ochre that I already have thinned over here and kind of reach up with my palette knife up wherever I put it, down here, and put just a little bit of this alizarin crimson. So I'm going to pull a little bit of alizarin crimson and put it with some of my yellow ochre. Mix it up a bit. And I'm just going to use that. It's kind of a orangey color. I'm going to use that to kind of go back for some of these exterior lines, just kind of as a reminder. Again, I know all of this will change, but at least we'll have something to kind of give us a little bit of guidance early on. And I can even take some of that and put it right here where the dark is. So the point of an underpainting is it's like the skeleton of your painting. It gives you a base to kind of just to get started with. And it really is to be a reminder for us, to help us remember where our darks and where our lights are. In painting, in oil painting especially, it's all about values, darks, midtones, and lights. So we want to get that established early. Then this back here, this is very, very dark. So we know that this is going to be our darkest part, as this is going into the background. Now, this is very, very thin. I like to do this, typically I do this before I mix my paints, because while I'm mixing my paints, this will dry a bit. The Gamsol evaporates. I've already mixed my paints for this first block in, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and get started. So remember in the last video, I mixed the paints for a dark and a mid-tone for the first pass of my flower and my background. And so that's what we're going to be doing here. The other thing that we want to do is to kind of pull out these lights, just like this. And we can take our rag with a finger and just pull them out. Again, it's just provides a base for us to know where our lights and darks are before we start applying our colors. So the next thing that we want to do is we are going to squint. Now, I think a lot of students, they are kind of shy about doing that. I don't know why, but I squint all the time when I'm looking at my subject, whether it's a photo or I'm painting from life. And so what squinting does, I want everybody actually to do this right now. Squint as much as you can. When I'm looking at my subject and I squint, then all of the detail goes away. You'll lose all of this detail. What you have is what I'm looking at while I'm squinting. I see a dark right here. I see a dark right here. And then I see light. I don't see anything else. I don't see all of the details. So that's what we want to do, and that helps us determine where the dark is and where the light is. So I've just done that with my flower. I actually did it to get my underpainting in. And now I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to go ahead and start using my gel that I have down here. And I'm again with the tip of my brush, just the tip. I don't want to do too much. I'll reach into my pile of dark paint that I have, and I'm going to get this right along here. So this, and this. I know we see some lights up here, but that's okay. I'm not wanting to get details yet. That can come later. So I'm just going to darken this rectangle and this on the very, the border here of our flower. And I'll go ahead and do the same over here. So when I do these peonies and these roses and we start out like this, I have a term that I use and I call it painting the donut. What was that commercial that they used to, I can't remember who it was for, but it was a commercial about making the donuts, making the donuts. So get that in your head. We're painting donuts, right? We got a center and we got an exterior here. They're not always going to look like this, but with this particular flower, it really does. So now I'm going to wipe off my brush, this. I'm going to put a little bit more of my Gamsol in it. Now I'm going to reach into my lighter flower color, kind of the mid-tone color. So every place where I see the light, I'm squinting, I'm looking around, that's where I'm going to put it. So just going to bring this around. And I bring the paint just right up and to the other and over, and it mixes them together, right? I don't want to be shy about applying this. We want in oil painting, we want our strokes of paint to touch the other. That's how you get them integrated, or what some people call blended. So that's what we're doing. So again, I'm going to go ahead and do it with this one also. And I will, as this, see how this is light right here and kind of goes up in here, I'll go ahead and do that right here, kind of bring it up and maybe like that. And that's all I'm going to do at this stage. So this is as far as we're going to get in this stage right here. And this is what you'll do in your actual final painting. This is how you'll start. We're going to make a donut. So now we're getting into our next pass of color. And actually, sorry, I'm kind of jumping ahead. Let's go ahead and put this background in right here. Here's the other thing I want to talk about. And we're going to change our kind of brush. When we go from pink to green, I'm going to change my brush. Don't put in your background until you've finished everything. Put in everything that you want to put in on your flower. The reason why is it can get this green and this red is going to mix together if you are painting them simultaneously too early, and it's going to really it's going to dirty up your flower. Now at the very final part of our painting, we will bring a lot of the background in to our flower because we cut in, we actually may, especially with our rose that we'll be working on, we really use our background or our negative space to cut in and make our petals. So using negative space helps us define our flowers. And as you're painting, you'll think, well, gosh, this doesn't really look like a flower, until you put in your background and you cut in. So I'm going to use this to just kind of cut in and redefine my drawing, and then you'll start to see it. And it's so easy to cut in and develop these petals from your background. To just pulling that up just like that. Starts getting more definition of our flower. So I put all of the dark in for my background. This is very, very, very dark. I wouldn't necessarily do it like that if I had a much lighter background, but that's how I started off with this one. And then I'm just going to put in a little bit of this mid-tone color here. Up here. It almost could use getting a little bit lighter, but I'm honestly not going to worry about it at this stage. Okay, so this is my first pass, the first block in pass, and this is what we're going to start with. Then our next stage, this is when we're going to start really defining our petals. So now I'm going to go to lighter values. Really, it's going to be the full range of values.